Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison, and I want to say thank you to our amazing listeners who share, who love on us, who leave us reviews. This has been an impactful space for me to have amazing conversations with women. And today is no different because I have a woman today who I met years ago, I think a couple years before COVID, when I started getting on this online space. And she was a nonprofit founder then and continues to be. And I knew her as more of like an alignment of your physical body human being. So let's fast forward. Just today, I gotta put my glasses on because she's got a slew of things going on here. Just today is a speaker, an author, podcaster, more nonprofit creator, yoga, all the things. But most importantly, she's a life coach in the space for women who are looking to be aligned for their worth so that they can create impact. And who does not want to feel worthy? But it's also worth with purpose. And that's what I think is really important, the conversation, because Jessica has an incredible story to tell of her own journey to worth and creating the impact that she has today as a life coach for women around the world. She is not defined by a geographic space. She wants to be sort of like the leaf that moves with the wind. Wherever it takes her is where she will go to support women's alignment in finding our worth. Worth is such a big idea and concept for women. But let's start with Jessica's story. Welcome to the show, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's so fun to think back when we did meet because it was so long ago, and to think of the version of who we were to who we are now. So it just shows, we are always evolving as humans.
Absolutely. And what was so fascinating is I've been watching your journey. You've been traveling, doing all the things and doing a lot, really. Because what COVID did for me was like, oh, look, I get to do nothing but stay at home and be awesome at home, which worked for me. But it's also fun to watch other people's evolution because you're right. The evolution it doesn't always mean doing, right? It just did. So tell me a little bit about the journey from your first nonprofit to then and then the yoga life, and then the speaking life, and then the authorship life, and then the life coaching life, and then moving and engaged life. Like you've got a lot here.
I love it. Okay, well, so to backtrack, I will say I used to actually be a hairdresser and a fitness coach. And I couldn't separate the two. It was like this, beauty, wellness from the inside out sort of thing. I loved helping people feel good, look good in every way. And I moved to LA to be a I thought I was gonna be like a celebrity hairstylist, fitness coach, all this stuff. And then I had my own health problems. It got me to this point of like, I thought I had a brain tumor because I was like fainting all the time. I was
Mm.
super forgetful. I was super fatigued, but I was the one that was training everyone and looking good and, working at the hair salon, all this stuff. But I was like, there's something wrong. Like, this is not okay. And so I remember going on this little journey on a run over in Venice on this pier. And one night, there was a moment that I had. I was like, sitting on the pier and I was like, I don't even know how to meditate. Teach me to be still, basically. So I'm sitting there, I hear the wind and feel things. And all of a sudden I heard this like audible voice though, and it was be still and know that I'm God. And I was like, what the heck?
Mm.
Like looked up and I literally thought somebody was there. And I was like, who was that? And no one was there. I was like, God, is that you? And anyway, then there was just this thing like, be still, be still. And I was like, huh, okay. So I locked myself in my room. I drew all these pictures and fast forward, I call my dad and I was like, I think I'm supposed to backpack the world or something. And he's like, okay, what does that mean? I was like, I think I'm supposed to backpack the world and help people. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to go to one country. I'm going to help people. And then I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to help more people. I just, there's something that I need to do. And fast forward, I ended up doing it. I sold all my stuff. I found actually an organization that was doing what I envisioned. I thought I was making it up, and it was like basically doing that. And so I took a backpack in tent, lived all over the world for a year, helped with orphanages, teaching English, worked with human trafficking, like anything you can think of. And at the same time, I was healing myself too. Because
Mm.
remember, I had all these health problems. My doctor told me that I had no estrogen left in me. I was only 21 at the time. And I was like, or maybe 20, 21, 22. It was like the worst of the worst. I had no, like, basically no testosterone. I was like, what do we need to do? Inject stuff in me? And she was like, Jessica, if you want to live, like, you are going to have to change your whole entire life. And I didn't take her seriously until she told me, like, if you keep living like this, you will die, basically. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. So through that, I was on this journey of, wanting to help all these people. But I was like, if I help all these people but I'm not well, like I need to take care of myself so I can help all these
Mhm.
people. And while I'm on this journey around the world, I'm learning and I'm healing and I'm learning about like body, mind, heart, spirit. I'm doing yoga because that's what helped. It was a long process of like helping heal me. And then through that process, I was like, wow, like we are whole beings. And in order to make that impact, we need to see ourselves as worthy and valuable and take care of ourselves so we can impact others. So I remember coming home and then basically had this vision of starting my first nonprofit, which was the one, when I met you years and years ago. And so that whole vision came to life. And then I ended up passing that one off a few years ago. I mean, a few years after. And while I was doing that though, I felt like there was this element of everything that I had already learned with in the beauty industry. I'd gone traveling around the world, did all this like service work, had a lot of leadership experience, I was actually going through a coaching certification at the time.
Mhm.
So there was a yoga background, had all these things. And I was chatting with one of my gal that I was connected with, and we had so many things in common. We had this idea of what now is Wholeness Journey, for example, the nonprofit I have. And essentially it was this place of, oh wow, to empower people in their giftings, to go out and
Mhm.
see what's really going on in the world, to basically what I was doing on my journey was a wholeness journey, like being able to know my identity, heal my heart, know my own purpose, my body, my spirit, like all these places. We wanted to guide people into that space and then learn how to give to those affected by human trafficking. So that's what the nonprofit still does, and a place to love yourself and love others. And then, but through that space, like I said, because before I was a hairdresser, fitness coach, and when I came home, I knew I just couldn't do life the same. And so obviously I started the nonprofits, but while I had my hairdressing clients, the coolest thing was the transformation that they were getting internally. Like they were always leaving crying, or like,
Mhm.
there was like something that they would have these aha moments. And I was like, this is what I love. And this is what like was just so natural, would come out. And So I took massive leaps, like super afraid, got my coaching certification, and then I planned a year that when I was gonna quit, like hair and fitness, like everything else completely, and go all in on my coaching business to help more women. And that was scary, but I let all of it go, jumped in, not knowing what the heck to do, joined some coaching programs. I wrote my book at the same time that I was launching that, had found somebody to be so sweet and design the cover, design the inside, found an editor, just all these things that I look back at the old version I was so just like fearless though. I think because I didn't really know what it was going to take. If I really knew the whole road, the whole map, I don't think I would have gone for it because it's a lot of work, right? It's scary. There's so much that happens. I look back and I'm proud of her because I'm like, you don't know how the heck to write a book, but you're going to figure it out. You don't know how to start a nonprofit, but you're going to figure it out. You don't know how to be a life coach, but you're going to figure it out. And so all to say that it was just this, you know, each moment or speaking or now having a podcast, it was the same sort of thing. It started as a whisper and then it became, wow, either by other people and then knowing myself, I'm so natural that other people are like telling me all the time, like, wow, you're gifted at this thing. And I would have such a clear vision. It was like, okay, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. And then just kind of jumping and taking the leap.
I think why women can relate is we're always doing the most. We are the specific species that is in existence that can carry a load like ants do, right?
Oh,
And we do it well and we can enjoy the majority of it. And then there's some parts that are kind of like, okay, I'm over it. But I'm curious is when other women are hearing other stories, you know, they often think like, oh gosh, she's such a go-getter. She's got all the things. And I want to bring up things that are real for all of us, the doers. Where do you feel like your resistance, like whenever these whispers came, was there any form of resistance? And then who did you have to like contend with internally to be like, I'm going to do this anyways?
well, I mean, a couple of the hardest things, honestly, because I've had to let go of a couple of these big dreams. Like one was passing off that first nonprofit, and another one was another company that I built with someone else. And the interesting thing is, they were similar things that happened that it was almost like, so for example, I would hear these like little whispers, or people would tell me something, or because the reality is what was happening outside wasn't really happening in the inner circle, like behind the scenes. And I'm not okay with that. So for me, it was very out of alignment for like, let's be on a stage and talk all this good, but really I see some really unhealthy things that are not healed, restored, like whatever. And so having gone through a couple of these things, it was the most difficult because I'm the type of person that is so loyal, so committed to a vision. And everything I've done has been all people focused, has been to help more people. So it's not like to build a product to just generate income where it's just like, okay, fine, whatever, this isn't working out, bye. When I create with a partner, for example, it is like intimate. It's like a marriage. So I, at this point, have considered that I have had 2 divorces in my life. And so with those, like the hardest thing of acknowledging like, this is not okay, me being in therapy about what was really going on and having to like really deal with this stuff even before it was over, just like, oh my God, what do I do? And, how do I just had this thought of like, if I love better, if I do this, things will get better. Or, there's all this stuff that I just thought if I do this, things will change. And I have just realized that I can't change anyone except for myself. And so now I'm actually very passionate about even like partnerships and how to grow a either business or a nonprofit, or like a project, like something to birth into life if you're doing it with somebody in a healthy way. So those 2 instances was excruciating because it was like these are my dreams that literally birthed into my heart and my spirit. And here I am being like, surrender, and I am going to pivot. And, like feeling that a part of my identity, because those were
Yeah.
100% pieces of my identity of what, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, relationally you create and build from your heart, and
Mhm.
then financially, and then I remember, making these decisions of, okay, no longer, and then having to get back to a place of like, okay, well, who am I now? Who's the Jess now?
Right.
And
Right.
how do I show up in the world, not caring what everybody thinks, not trying to be the one that has to defend herself? Do I create the same thing just in a different way? Is it like I remember one time with my first thing that I passed off. And I remember sitting on this couch and I was like, God, like, what am I supposed to focus on? Like, I thought this was it. I thought this was like where my whole life was going, like my forever, getting this clear as day, like leaders, like it was just like leaders. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do with that? And it was just so clear for me about, if I focus on people that want to make an impact in the world somehow, then I don't touch every single person on the planet, because I can't. I'm only one person
Right.
and you're only one person. But
Right.
if I focus on the leader, then they're going to trickle, they're going to make their impact, and then that's going to create a ripple effect and a ripple effect. So then there was like this, oh my gosh, okay, this new clarity of like how Jess shows up in the world, from the, not the old version of herself, but the new version of herself. And from this new learned experience of, okay, now I'm going to go in with a renewed sense of hope, a new renewed sense of vision, a renewed sense of being like healthy, understanding what
Yeah.
are like healthy patterns going into this now that I've learned. So yeah, those were some really hard times, but I've learned a lot, and I'm, grateful for the learning.
Right? I mean, and that's it, isn't that what makes us feel that meaningful life that we exist in, and the purpose-led spaces is growth. Growth is always forcing us to being somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Being a version of us that. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you've told the story of like, this is who you used to be, this is, and then you went into this and went to this. And it all sounds like, oh my God, look at her just jumping in, head first, and just let's talk about it later, but let's do it now, which really appeals. I mean, it is so attractive for so many of us women, because we are living in a world today where generations, just a generation before us, they didn't have the kind of freedom that we have today. And we want to take advantage of this freedom that we have, but then there's these emotional spaces that exist. So who do you feel like, when you were saying pivot from your heartbreak? Because like you said, divorce is not is messy, no matter how amicable it is, right? It's still painful, it's still hard. And although those were business ideas with you, it's still the same thing, because it is like a marriage, because you're investing a lot of time and energy with the person, you're building it out together. When you say when you pivot, you had to pivot and you had to shift. Who did you have to be? Like, you knew what you were doing, and you knew that you wanted to do something else. Cause we ask that often, like we said on the couch, like, okay, now what am I going to focus on? Those parts are the easy parts of like, okay, let's write a list of what we can do. But the being piece, cause you're unraveling yourself and you're getting to your truth of that experience. What was your journey to that truth-led space for you to you here
So in
today?
that time, like who I had to be.
Yes, because right, when you're talking about you're leading leaders into worth, that because the worthiness causes us to have impact in the world. You had to experience what you're teaching to
Yeah.
get there. So what was for you where you were like, okay, that being is great, but that doesn't exist anymore. Who do you need
Mm-hmm.
to be now? And how did you get there? Like, did you do a journaling process? Did you on list, or did you sit still like that original time? Or was
Yeah.
it, what did you
So
do?
happen. There's
Yeah.
confusion, there's sadness, therapy. I had like very close mentors. I decided that I wasn't going to be going to a lot of events. I wasn't going to. And so it was really that time of going internal, of like not remembering, okay, I was also out, because I think sometimes a lot of people think that burnout comes from doing too much. For me, it
Mhm.
was more like mental, emotional exhaustion, being in a place that I was like trying to hold everything together in like a
Mm.
messy, unhealthy situation. And so I was just like tired of just trying to like do that. And I was not supposed to be in that. I stayed way too long, I will say. So I was trying to recover from this like burnout place of went through a depression of barely being able to get out of bed. It was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, my body is just stopped. Like mentally, I'm exhausted. Emotionally, it was just like, whoa, I need to rebuild my identity. Like, who is Jess without
Mm.
this? And because I
Yeah.
was known in the community, like very, active, like people saw me as
Mhm.
like a specific way in person. And so I had all these thoughts too of like, really, what is everybody going to think? Are people going to think that I don't care about people anymore? Are they going to think that I'm,
Yeah.
all this stuff? And I had to come back to know who is Jess. And it was like, you are like loving. You are like, I'm getting emotional actually right now because I remember being in that place of like, no, you care so deeply. You love so deeply.
Mm.
And having that, like being on my yoga mat, just in surrender with my palms wide open of being filled up with those of really who I knew I was, like being, not doing, but in the being, my essence was, loving and caring and passionate and to go after like for people that are lost to be found, to ignite these like sparks in people to see that they could be fully alive, to bring hope to the world, like and so all of this stuff I had to sit with and be reminded of, no, this is who you are. And so through that,
Mm.
even while I was going through all like the grieving process and anger and sadness and whatnot, it was also being fully reminded, like, no, it doesn't matter what lies have come through my head or what anybody says, like, this is what I know deep down and what I believe in God, what God says about me, what, like people closest to me also say about me. So I had to be around that to like fill my cup with who I really was. And so I will say that anytime I've been in, like, even the second time that I've had a similar situation, I had to do the exact same thing. And
Mm.
even recently, I went through a really hard accident that just messed up my whole life as well, flipped upside down and all around, same thing. And so a big process of that is only being around those that are uplifting, that care deeply, that know your heart, that are not to take from you, that are like going to remind you who you really
Mhm.
are, taking care of my body, mind, heart, spirit. Like my health was my number one priority as if it was my full-time job. So food to saunas to body movement to what, you know, rest looks really different for everyone, but what's restful to me to in every season, I have different things of what works really well for me, but had to really focus on that and shut out the noise and then be super clear on that like rebuild of like, okay, if I know this is who I am, what is the vehicle now?
Right. And I feel like what you're saying is this real journey to worth, right? Because so often I've heard many coaches have said you can only teach to the level that you have reached yourself. When we first got on and you had mentioned the word worthy a few times, I was really excited because we haven't talked in years. Like it's been years. And like you said, we were different iterations of ourselves back then. But when you reached out, there was no question in my mind. There was no, yeah, let's reconnect and see if this will work out. Because I think the essence of our energies know
Yeah,
that we just know.
totally.
We just know. Just as the same as there's trauma bonding, I think there's healing bonding. I think
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
these spaces where our energies just know, okay,
Yep,
you've been through it too. And look at
yep,
you on the other side. And that's what I think was what I was most excited about is like, okay, well, what got you to here now of helping women through the thing, right?
yeah,
And your story just clarifies why impact is so important for you because it seems like it's a through thread of every experience. It's like, because you could have given in the first time and be like, oh God, okay, I'm done. I'm done.
totally.
right? And then the second time hit, and it's like, oh, geez, okay, is this
Yeah.
a lesson? And then you get in a physical accident. So it's like everything is wanting to remind you to settle down.
Yep.
You know, Jessica,
Yep.
just be still already. Be quiet. Just go over there in the corner and do your thing. But in you, you were like, no, I still have so much in me. There's still
Yeah.
so much. So
Totally.
now that you work in the arena of life coaching, and this is where you help women navigate through, what do you see as the common thread with them in terms of why is worth a challenge?
I mean, all the questions and the thought, like, even if I'm helping a woman, say, start or expand her purpose-driven business or something, there's that imposter syndrome of like, "Oh, I can never do that. She's way better than me." Or
Mm,
I mean, yeah, it looks easy for you, but I don't have that kind of life, or I don't have the resources. So, it's not the right time for me, or I've had this trauma in my life and there's no way that my nervous system could ever get me to a place of where I really want to be. And and I have a lot of grace. I also, hold a lot of space, but I'm also a challenger. I'm like, okay, I was raped at 21. I understand what it's like to be drugged and to, wake up and be
mm,
and feel like I'm worthless and feel like it was my problem and feel like my body's, now this whole thing, and then shove it down for 10 years and then it pop in my
mhm,
face 10 years later and then accidentally share it on a podcast and then it goes live to the whole entire world and then I have to so I know what that's like. I also know what it's like, the breakups I had. I know what it's like to go through a car accident where a drunk driver hits me and then my whole life turns upside down and I'm in physical pain and having anxiety and this, that, and the other. And it being debilitating at losing all my money, not even being able to pay for groceries. And
mhm,
somehow there's still a way to move forward. And
mm,
it looks so different in different seasons. What does moving forward look like? One day it's get out of bed. Another day is write the email. Another day is hit record. Another day is call that person. Another day is
yeah,
get the LLC. What the other day is fly to that place. Like and that's where I again have, and when I work with people, it's like, yes, I have the grace for you and there's possibility. We're not going to stay here. So as I've experienced life, and I just know that it's like I'm still super young. I'm only 36 talking to you, but I feel like I've lived so much life where I'm like, okay, through life experience, you can't teach somebody this in school.
yes,
It's like, you know what? If you want to be able to help anybody with anything, get your butt in the game. Like, get your shit together. Just start doing
yeah,
something. Because
right,
through your life story, you're going to be able to help more people because you've had that experience, because you've experienced more things. And so that's where I've seen it all for the woman, of not feeling worthy of what she really wants her life to be like or look like or
mm,
feel like. I'm like, you may not feel worthy. You are. It's a gift. It's already been given to you, just like grace is given to us every day. And
mhm,
you have to take a step. As you take a step, you will be reminded that you are worthy.
yes. What a great message, because it is so true. It just takes that one step. And like you've said in your last like 10 minutes ago, this shit's scary. There's
Yep.
not, I mean, let's be honest, any time that pushes us into where we have to use our courage muscle is gonna be scary.
Totally.
There's no escaping that. So with that being said, every time you were okay, like you've got this whole list now, speaker, author. These are things all women have on their list to do. They want to write a book, they want to get on a stage, right? They want to share their story. They want to do it in a format of a podcast or in bigger spaces. And this is a list that's common to a lot of women, and especially in spaces where they feel like there's that fire inside that's like, I know I'm meant for more. How do you, like, what is your process in this okay, hear your resistance and I need you to surrender.
Mhm.
Like, what does that look like for you in the work that you do, having experienced so many things from, when you were saying, like, as a hairdresser, you could see that beauty from the inside out. And then having through the heartbreak, the first heartbreak of letting go of your dream business, and then your second dream business. And then, I mean, if people came to you and said, you don't know, Jess, you don't know. I have been through some shit. And your response, like, tell me, because I bet you I can one up you on that, right? How do you help them really embody that space of, okay, I can do it too? Because we say a lot of stuff to
For sure.
convince ourselves, but how do you help women embody it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing is, I mean, I take people that's why when we were talking about yoga, for example, like I bring in different tools for people to, like meditate,
Mm, yeah.
visualize. I believe in like tapping, prayer, like
Hmm.
different speaking things out loud even before you really believe it, vision board. Like there's so many like tools I will say that I actually use. I'm not just speaking to people, I'm having them go through an experience when I'm with them. So depending on what it is that they're going through,
Mm,
I will feel like, what does this person need right now? Okay. They need to have a moment where I'm taking them through some visualization and they're meeting their little 5-year-old self that they need to have like a healing moment with. And they need
mm,
to come back to remember that and then see who they were, make, some love with the essence of who they are, and then
yeah.
notice themselves in the space that they are currently today. And then have empathy for themselves. And then, so there can be like a gentle process that they go through of seeing part of their past. And that's what, some people say that like you have to go to therapy for that. I'm like the type of coach that I'll go to the past for a little bit because I think that in order to really move forward, you have to get to the root of things. So I'll take people to the root of some things and then get them, body, mind, heart, spirit
Mm,
into this space of like, all right, that was your past. Who are we now? And where do you want to go? And then take them through some exercises of, okay, well, if you want to go there, like say you want to be a speaker now, what does a speaker do? Who is that type of
mm,
woman? And then we do practices, different type of practices, whether it be somatic practices, speaking practices, coaching practices, different things that I take them through to then
mhm.
take steps toward that version, even if they don't feel like it yet. So
Right.
they'll go through steps to be a speaker, even if they're not on physical stages yet. I'll have them do growth work, different things to be embodying that. And then they slowly begin to build this confidence because confidence happens by taking action. Confidence
Yeah.
happens by making promises to yourself that you keep. So if they're small steps, go ahead. We're going to make this promise. If it's to record yourself on a video every single day for the next 30 days, you are going to say yes to that and you're going to do it every single day, whether you like it or not, or think you're good at it or not, or whatever, until you begin this confidence. Because when you tell yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, you start telling yourself you're not capable because you are
Mm,
not keeping these promises to yourself. So it's a slow thing that happens. And that's why I'm like, yeah, getting to know the person, what they need, and then getting into that space of the embodiment, the healing, and then the embodiment, empowerment that now, and then where they're going, how to take
mhm.
action on that, even if they don't feel like it yet.
Yeah. Do you feel like that those were the journeys you took within yourself of really getting to your own truth every single time, right? Because here's another thing. I experienced it myself. The first time I had my heartbreak in a business, I was just like, no, that didn't really happen.
Mm,
Right? I can convince myself out of the experience because it's too painful until it hits so big. And then you have to like really confront it. So,
absolutely.
in this, I love what you said about the gentleness of the process, because I think that's the other thing. I think women are plagued with is like, oh my gosh, I want to get there yesterday.
Yeah.
So they want to bulldoze themselves into the thing. And I think that this gentle process of in coaching, in healing, it has to be. I don't think it can be any other way than a
Totally.
gentleness through their own journey of
Totally.
that. Do
Yeah.
you feel like in your journey there was moments where you weren't being gentle and it didn't work, and then the gentleness, and then you were really like, okay, I think the gentle way of moving towards, or did it just happen naturally for you that you were gentle on yourself?
No, I'm the opposite. I'm not gentle on myself naturally, even still to this day. I'm like my biggest like critique, and I
Mhm.
wanna be on the other side already. So
Mhm.
speaking from that place, that's taken so much work, and that's why I have more empathy for people because I know how hard
Mm.
that is. Um, so even for example, after this accident that I had a year and a half ago, I like literally everything was stripped from me. My body, it's one of those things that you get hit by this car, you think you're going to be better in a couple weeks. Oh no, like excruciating pain for a full year, like had to stop my business. I couldn't look at screens. 2 hours to write one email, couldn't take new clients, like had to stop everything. I had to like ask for donations for groceries and my rent. It was so
Mhm.
vulnerable. And a big thing in me, because I hold like responsibility really high. I feel I'm the oldest of four. And I've done a lot of work on this. So
Mm.
I'm the oldest of four and I just feel responsible. Nobody told me, like
Right.
are responsible for the world. But I feel this responsibility that it's up to
Mm.
me to make sure everybody's okay, to like figure out my own life. Like nobody's coming for me to save me. Like I have to
Mhm.
figure out my own business and my own bills and my own healing, my own whatever. So I go through this process and I am just dying on the inside because I can't figure out how to heal faster. And I'm like, if I don't heal, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. I'm not going to be able to help people. I'm not going to be like the vision's gone, all this stuff. So all of a sudden, the blame is at myself, which I didn't
Mm.
create this accident. Some woman that was drunk at noon with their daughter in the car decided to hit me. And I had to go through this whole rewiring of like, why are you shaming yourself and angry at yourself
Mhm.
that you can't heal fast enough when you didn't even cause this? And
Yeah.
so that has been, I mean, that was a big process. Like, fiance, soon to be husband, was like so amazing, like held so much space, was just so like, Jess, like, you didn't do the crying every day. Like, I'm surprised I still have tears. Mentors, people like reminding me about this responsibility that I'm holding. Like, you're actually not even
Mm.
responsible for your healing. You're not responsible for anything right now. And that's a very hard thing for me to grasp of
Mhm.
responsibility because on thinking that I'm responsible for everything, like I'm not God. I'm not supposed to be the
Right.
the world
Yeah.
or like, of my own life. And so it was really hard for me. And so until like there wasn't a one moment, it was so many
Mhm.
moments of tears and crying and surrendering and like thinking, okay, what if my whole life changes? What if I feel this way for the rest of my life? Am I going to still be okay? Am I going to love myself and who I am and where I'm going? And of course I didn't really believe like that would be my forever. I was like, okay, it's temporary, it's going to end, but I had to get to this point of like, am I worthy of who I am, not being capable of much of anything, And here my
Right.
fiance loves me deeply, my friends love me deeply, people are reminding me, and I'm like, okay, like I still have purpose on this planet, okay?
Because we all get hung up on the one thing, right? Like yours is rooted in you're the oldest of four, so responsibility is on
Yeah.
this really high level. And when I was working with a forgiveness coach, mine is loyalty, right? It's very
Mhm.
ingrained culturally and
Yeah.
all of it. And she asked me, she's like, I'd like to, I'd like for you to redefine your relationship with loyalty. And I was like, what are you talking about? Right. And it's what you're saying is that surrendering to that, because you have to.
Totally.
I loved what you said is when you, no matter whether you were going to feel that way forever or not, would you still love yourself? Because I think that's a big question we have to ask ourselves. If we're not living the life we'd imagined, not by our own choice, right? Because yours was like some lady just decided to be out there driving around drunk at noon on a Tuesday. You didn't ask for that, but would you still love yourself through it all? Through not being able to pay anything or, do the things asking for. And I think that level of deep intimacy and vulnerability with yourself was is why you are the right person to teach the world about worthiness. That's it. That's the key. Nothing else proved your worthiness at the greatest level of your core than that moment of having asked yourself, if this is me for the rest of my life, would I still love me? Holy crap. Because you can love yourself when shit's good and when shit's kind of like halfway decent. But when you're at your lowest and you ask yourself that question and you could answer it with full honesty by the evidence around you, your fiance, your friends, your family, they didn't abandon you because all of a sudden you can't pay for dinner, right? I think that's what makes you the in helping us women understand our worth. It has to be through the process that's deep with you to get to me. Because there's
Mhm.
nothing you can convince me, but everybody loves you. Do they though? Do they? Right. And so I'm going to ask you a question I ask all my guests as we get near the end here. If you're walking down the street and you walk into a cafe and you see 25-year-old Jess, what would you say to her that she would actually listen?
The first thing that popped in my head was don't care what people think. A lot of that was always in my mind because being that lover, or like you talked about loyalty, I'm committed. I'm such a committed person. So I always was thinking about others before myself with this. Oh,
Mm,
what are they going to think? If I do this, what are they going to think? Like, just, and more so people that I care about, not
mhm,
strangers really, but
mhm,
like people I care about, what are they going to think? And how is that going to affect them? And just remembering, you know what, at the end of the day, like, who really cares? Who cares? What is going to be the best thing? What is the honoring thing? What is the integrity thing? What is the thing
mm,
deep in your
mm.
heart that you know what is the right thing? And stick with that when and listen to your heart, listen to your intuition. It speaks to you for a reason, and don't wait until
Mm.
the house burns down. Like, listen to it before.
Yeah. That I'm pretty sure 25-year-old Jess is like permission, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's, I think, what we do is we give ourselves that permission to. And every story you've shared today always leads back. When I get coaches on here, they're like, okay, here's what I do in the world. This is what I put out in the world. Like confidence and empowerment and all the things. You have to have seen it as the dots connect, because that's the whole purpose of our stories being told, is like, well, how does that make you it now today? And I could see worthiness all throughout, right? Because when you were saying, I would tell my younger self to not care what people, you're not saying it from like, because it's what has debilitated you is how people think about it. You're saying it from a perspective of like, because I really, really care about them to such a degree that I forget about me. So what you cared about, what they thought, isn't necessarily because it's about you. It was about, well, how will it affect them? Because that's what you said just now. And I hear that from deeply empathetic people. It's like, I'm a people pleaser, not because I need that spotlight. It's really because I want to make sure that they are taken care of. Like they're happy, they're feeling good at your own expense, though, which then whittles away at our worthiness.
Totally. Yep.
Right. And then to come back up into the fold of like, no, actually, the way you know you're worthy is because you see it in me first.
Totally.
And and I feel so honored to have this conversation, because we have to have a conversation about worthiness that's honest to us. And it's not just a passive word that makes us feel good in a fleeting moment. It's through the heartbreak of experiencing of your natural personality of giving up yourself so many times and so much, and being in your birth order. It all kind of fits together. What do you think we could what's a one question when we're on that couch and it's like, I can't do it one more day. This sucks. This sucks so bad. I just can't. What is a question that you believe we could ask ourselves to snap us out of that?
Well, the thing that really gets me out of it, and again, like this is the way that I'm wired, but I also believe that all humans are wired this way. Like it's innate in us. Like we're designed to connect. We have something in us that is not for us. We are to be a
Mm,
light. To be a
mm,
gift to the world. There's this one quote, I forgot who does it, but it's like, what if our purpose is to find our gift and give it away? And so I
mm,
think of when I'm at my end and I'm like, what if there's one person in the world that they needed to hear whatever it was that I said, however it was that I showed up, whoever it was that I was to them that day, and they saved their life. It saved their life somehow. It changed their life.
mm,
It saved their life because we never know. We don't know if like it's someone's last day on the planet and we showed up who we are and it saved them. We don't know if like there was something that we said that just like put a light bulb in someone and it ignited them. We don't know what us getting out of our own way is going to do. And I just believe if we
mm,
all did that, this world would be such a better place because we're all these crazy, amazing gifts walking the planet. And,
mm.
to take ourselves out of our own pity and hardship, even though it's real, and like flip it to
Right.
like maybe there's one person in the world that really needs us.
Well, what a way to end the conversation. Thank you for that. I feel so fulfilled in this conversation. I feel really seen as well because, even though our experience weren't the same, I feel this deep relatable space of, yeah, I know what that feels like, that heartache, that depression, that sadness, that where you have to really search for the people that'll remind you who you are because you're just punishing yourself so much. So I'm so grateful for you being here and sharing with us your story. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of our community and sharing your truth with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for saying yes and for opening up the space, like it's not if you don't feel safe sharing, then you're not going to share. And so thank
Yeah.
you for opening up the space. It was amazing. And I can't wait to keep connecting more and have you on my podcast too.
Yes, yay. Well, thank you everyone who's listening. And please, if this had any inkling of like, wow, I felt that, share it with like just said, if it's one person, if you can just change one person's life in a conversation, you don't know. We don't know what people are going through. That's what we're here for. That's why technology keeps growing. Is it's meant to touch each other in spaces that would normally not be available or accessible, right? And now we have this opportunity. So thank you everyone and I'm going to end with go be your crazy gifted self, like Jess said. Until next time, thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.